Hi, this screencast is about measuring density and volume, and you will need to be able to convert density into various masses or volumes and in chemistry, and we're going to do a lab with density later in this chapter. Alright, so sometimes you have units that you can measure, for instance like length or mass, and sometimes you have units where you derive them from other measurements, and a derived unit is a combination of more than one measured units called a derived unit. For instance, area, you take length times width. That's a derived unit. Volume, length times width times height. You can see several others listed here. Density is mass per volume. Molar mass is the mass per amount of substance. Molar volume and energy are all derived units. They're not something that you necessarily always measure with one tool, but rather something that you measure more than once and various ways, and then you do some kind of math computation. So, volume is the amount of space occupied by an object, length times width times height. The derived SI units are meters cubed or cubic meters, because you'll be measuring your length, your width, and your height all with meters, and then when you multiply the three values together you get meters cubed. A cubic centimeter is most often used in labs and medicine, and a centimeter is just a prefix added to the meters, and so we use centimeters because they're smaller, and that's how you get cubic centimeters. You'll also see it sometimes written as cc's, more in the medical field, but that's the same as a cubic centimeter. Liter is not an SI unit, and it is a conversion from centimeters cubed or meters cubed. So 1 liter is 1,000 centimeters cubed, or 1 milliliter is 1 centimeters cubed. You're going to want to memorize 1 milliliter is 1 centimeter cubed. It'll save you a lot of time in conversions later on in this chapter. So density is the ratio of mass to volume, or mass divided by volume. So as you can see, this equation says density is equal to mass divided by volume, or D equals M over V. You will want to know that equation for the labs that we do, and for when you're being asked to find density, or maybe they give you density and ask you to find the mass or the volume. It is typically kilograms per cubic meter, but in labs, we measure it in grams per centimeter cubed or grams per milliliter. They're also the same. Density is a characteristic of a physical property of the substance. It is also, it doesn't matter how much of a particular substance you have, you will get the same density. So if you have a small chunk of gold versus a big chunk of gold, the density will be the same. Here are some densities. You can identify a substance based on its density. So if we were having you measure some liquid and you got that the density ended up being 0.82, you could look on this chart and recognize that it would be kerosene. So often they will have you measure the mass and volume of a substance and calculate the density, and then you can see what substance it is. Now, water is essentially 1.0. In this example, it says 0.998 grams per milliliter. Things that have a density less than water will float in water, and things that have a density greater than water will sink in water. So you have to make a comparison of what is in the other substance and their densities to see what's sinking and what's floating. Here is a sample problem. It says a sample of aluminum metal has a mass of 8.4 grams. The volume of the sample is 3.1 centimeter cubed. Calculate the density of aluminum. So if you remember back a couple of slides ago, it said D equals M over V. So we're being asked to find the density, and we have a mass and a volume. So we will identify the given information. They said 8.4 grams is the mass and 3.1 centimeters cubed is the volume. And we're asked to find the density. So we will take density equals mass divided by volume, plug our numbers in, and you get an answer after you do the math on the calculator. It's 2.7 grams per centimeter cubed. Okay. Here's another sample problem. What is the volume when the density is 11.35 grams per milliliter and the mass is 18.43 grams? So in this one, we have a density and we have a mass, and we're finding the volume. So we need our equation, density equals mass divided by volume, and we're going to plug our numbers in for our density and for our mass. And now we have volume is the unknown and what we're solving for. Now, volume is on the bottom of the equation, so we are going to have to multiply both sides by volume to cancel it out and get it off the bottom of the fraction so that we can solve for it. So we would have 11.35 grams per milliliter times the volume equals 18.43 grams. And now to solve to get volume by itself, we just divide by the 11.35 and you get an answer for the volume is 1.624 milliliters. Okay, so once you know what you have in the problem, what letters it matches, whether it's D, M, or V, you plug it in and you solve for it doing the math, the algebra. Okay, so there is a simulation available to do on density. I'll give you instructions more in class about that.